Alright, hello everyone. Welcome sa isa na namang lecture this time. Under tayo ng experimental psychology, we are going to talk about ethics. Shout out sa mga students ko dyan under ng experimental psych. Kasama to sa exam ninyo. Kaya hinabol ko tong video na to para marami kayong correct answers later on in the exam. So anyway, let's zoom in the word ethics. What do you mean by ethics? We talk about the do's and the don'ts. Everybody say do's and don'ts. Sa Tagalog, mga dapat at hindi dapat, mga tama at mga mali. What do we do with the do's? We apply the do's and we avoid the don'ts. Kaya nga ang next slide ko sabi ko dyan, sana naman ganyan kayo. Diba? This is one key. Isang susi ito for you to have a better mental health. FYI, trivia. If you want to have a better mental health, what do? You do a lot of good things and then you avoid as many bad things as you can. I guarantee you, gaganda ang mental health nyo. Gaganda ang spiritual quality ninyo. Medyo papunta na ako sa understanding the self, no? Pero totoo yan. Okay? If you want to have a better mental health, sa tingin nyo, marami na kayong mga negative emotions that you can no longer handle, maybe because, that's the cause, you are doing lots of bad things and you are not doing lots of good things. Try to reverse it. I guarantee you will have a better well-being. And we have studies to support that. Anyway, balik ulit tayo sa ethics in the context of experimental psychology. Wait lang Napupundi na yung ilaw. Kailangan ko nang bumili ng bago. No? Anyway, going back. So, ethics, another thing you have to remember is this is a specialty in philosophy. So, for example, you are a philosopher, you can say that you specialize in ethics. Ito yung paborito mong pinag-uusapan, do's and don'ts. Okay? Now, another thing about ethics is ethics is applied to a certain or specific profession. That's the difference between ethics and morality. Ang morality kasi we talk about do's and don'ts in the universal level. Meron ba talagang tama at mali, right and wrong behaviors external to human beings? Meron ba talagang objective standard of what's right and what's wrong, wherein no matter where you go, no matter what the situation is, something is right and something is wrong? And personally, of course, ang sagot ko dyan, merong talagang higher being who is God, who established the things that are right and that are wrong. Maliwanag. So I am in the morality issue when I talk about that. Universal rights and wrongs, morality yon. Pero ang ethics, you begin to apply these rights and wrongs into specific professions. Kaya may tinatawag tayong mga business ethics. Right? So we don't talk about right and wrong universally in the universal level. Ano yung mga right and wrong in doing business? Now you enter ethics. So many students who are studying business in business schools, meron silang subject on business ethics where they talk about the do's and don'ts in doing business. For instance, may-ari ka ng pabrika na gumagawa ng plastic. We all know that plastics are useful in our society. Marami kang pwedeng gawin dyan. Mga panglagay, ng mga gamit, so on and so forth. But, although your factory is producing profit, kumikita ka, yumayaman ka, ang isang outcome nun, ang isang consequence ng plastic factory mo, you may be destroying the environment. Nagpo-produce kasi yung factory mo ng mga toxic chemicals that is harming the environment. So how do you balance the two? In that situation that you produce profit, at the same time you're destroying the environment, what should you do? What should you not do as a business person owning that business? They talk about that in business ethics. Another example would be if you're an athlete, meron kang sinusunod na sports ethics. One example would be, let's say you're playing basketball against a stronger team and then you lost the game by big margin. As in, tambak ka. Ang final score is 0-80. Hindi ka nakascore. No matter how bad your game was, kahit nagkainitan pa kayo ng mga kalaro mo sa basketball, what do? At the end of the game, you acknowledge the win of your opponent. You go center court and then you shake each other's hands. That's an ethical thing to do. Yan yung isa sa mga do's na dapat mong gawin. Hindi pwedeng dahil tambak ka, dahil nagkainitan kayo, after the final buzzer, nag-walk out ka na lang, nagbihis ka na, umuwi ka na. What do you call that? Unethical behavior. You see, there are also do's and don'ts even if you are an athlete. Meron ding do's and don'ts in times of war. Let's say you are a soldier and then you encountered one of your enemies, down. Talagang tinamaan ng matindi sa legs niya, but he's still alive. And he is pleading for his life. Ang layo na nung baril niya sa kanya, and you have the opportunity to take away this person. Should you? As a soldier, you follow war ethics. And one of the ethic in war is life is above all things. Everybody say life. Buhay. Kahit magkaaway kayo, kahit nagbabarilan kayo, if you have the opportunity to save life, you save life above all else. Mas mahalaga ang buhay compared to the principles that you are fighting for. So what do you do in that situation? You help your enemy. Diba? Wala siyang kalaban-laban. Down siya, putol yung paa niya, what do you do? First aid. Apply first aid to your enemy. And then what? You take your enemy as a prisoner of war. Hindi yung nakita mo nang down, tapos tinumba mo pa. That is a very unethical behavior. So you take this person, you heal the person first, mag first aid ka dyan, and then you take the person as a prisoner of war, and then after the war, there is proper due process on what to do, how to deal with the prisoners of war that you captured during the war. Maliwanag. So all of these things are examples of what you mean by ethics. Do's and don'ts applied in certain professional fields. Today, syempre, dahil experimental psychology tayo, ang focus natin, the do's and don'ts applied in doing psychological experiments. Now, this lecture is just a summary of the major guidelines written in these documents. I highly recommend if you are a psych major, dapat nabasa nyo yung mga documents na yan. The one written by APA in the international level and the one written by PAP in the local level. Ano yung mga do's and don'ts na dapat tatandaan mo, a-apply mo as a psychologist, in the Philippine context as a psychometrician, para maging ethical professional ka, it's all contained in this document. So I highly recommend, basahin ninyo. I uploaded this in your Canvas. Hindi naman memorize lahat, but just browse through it so that you will have a feel what it means to be an ethical psychology professional. Now, the whole essence of ethics is to prevent harm. Everybody say harm. This is the last thing that we want to give to people. Ayaw natin na may nasasaktan, especially in doing psychological experiments. After all, psychology is a helping profession. Do you agree? So gusto natin, when people go to psychology, they leave us as better individuals. We want them to have higher well-being, to have better mental health. Ayaw natin na nung pumunta sila sa atin at umalis sila, they become worse. If that's what happened to them, then we have failed our field. Right? We are a field that helps people to be better. And one of the ways to violate that is to practice unethical behaviors in doing psychological studies. Kapag naging unethical tayo as a psychologist, especially in the context of experiments, masisira yung field natin. And we don't like that. Okay? Let me give you some examples, mga bad models. Ito yung mga wag nyong tutularan sa Tagalog na mga experiments because people were harmed. The study by Philip Zimbardo, Stanford Prison Experiment. I hope you're familiar with this. Some became prisoners, some became guards. In fairness, maganda sana yung research question ni Philip Zimbardo. Very socially relevant. But at the end of the study, many of his participants were traumatized. And you would understand why. If you don't, i-research nyo kung bakit. I cannot discuss this in this lecture. Masyado tayong haba. Or another example would be the study by John Watson kay Little Albert. Kilala nyo naman si Little Albert, di ba? Ginamit pa siya ni John Watson to prove a point, which is what? That fear is something that you condition. Something na sineshape sa atin ng environment. Hindi totoo daw yung sinasabi ni Freud na ang fear daw nasa unconscious mo yan. Kaya katakot sa isang object or sa isang animal because something happened to you in your past na suppress ang unconscious mo, kaya katakot dyan. Mali, sabi ni Watson. As you know, John Watson, quote-unquote, loves na loves niya si Sigmund Freud. Right? Kaya ang sabi ni John Watson is to prove Freud wrong. And one of the ways he did that is to do this conditioning experiment to Little Albert. As you already know, Little Albert wasn't scared of the white rat. until John Watson enters the picture, does an experiment, conditioned little Albert to fear the white rat, and guess what? He was successful. It ended up that little Albert indeed became scared of the white rat because of fear conditioning. O, diba? Na-traumatize pa si little Albert just for Watson to prove a point. Huwag niyong tutularan. At syempre, yung number one na huwag niyong tutularan, I think this is, even if you check the internet, this is the top one most unethical psychological experiment done by the psychologist John Money to prove a point about sex and gender. Sabi nga nila, ito daw yung experiment na nagsimulang mag-separate yung concept ng sex and gender. Although, technically, pareho lang naman talaga dapat yung sex and gender. Of course, there's a debate on that. I know it. I'm aware of that. But this experiment by John Money really started lots of controversy about the issue on sex and gender. But ang bottom line is, the experiment by John Money towards David Reimer, later on became Brenda. Okay? I-research na lang bakit from David naging Brenda. It's one of the most unethical psychological experiments. It even led to suicidal behavior by the participant who is si Reimer nga. Bakit siya nag-suicide? Ano yung nag-cause nun? Ano ba kasi nangyari sa experiment ni John Money? You read on your own. Now, I know many of you are asking, so these are clearly unethical experiments. Sir, lahat ng binanggit mo dito, how come during those times, pinapayagan yan? How come they were able to carry out these studies? Because during those times, these guidelines were still non-existent. Hindi pa ganun kahigpit in Tagalog, no? Kaya during those times when these psychologists are planning these studies and it's clearly unethical, no one is stopping them because they have no formal guidelines to use against those unethical experiments. But times have changed. Many people were hurt in the past. Many people were traumatized. So, syempre yung field natin, ayaw natin nun. So, yung mga professionals who are concerned about these issues came up with standards that will prevent these studies to happen again. Kaya sinisigurado natin ngayon during our times, no, ngayong 2025 or even in the past years, ayaw na natin magkakaroon ng mga ganyang mga unethical experiments. So, we are now very strict. When it comes to that, we always make sure for every experiment that we will do in psychology, it fits all these ethical guidelines principles. Maliwanag. So, maswerte lang yan sila Zimbardo. Maswerte lang yan sila John Watson. During those times, wala silang ganitong guidelines. But if they do that today, let's say, buhay si John Watson ngayon, buhay si Philip Zimbardo ngayon, and then tinuloy nila yung mga ganyang experiment nila, for sure, there will be serious consequences. Maliwanag. So please, one lesson here, don't replicate. Baka naman mamaya pag nag-replicate exercise tayo, replication exercise, gusto nyo ganyan. Gusto ko po i-replicate yung ginawa ni John Money. Subukan mo. Baka last day mo na yan sa university. Okay? Anyway, so let's talk about the ethical principles in doing psychological experiments. You can categorize this into 3. How many? 3. There are principles pertaining to human participants. Meron din naman for animal participants. At meron din tayong mga ethical principles to follow in writing your psychological experiments. Isa-isahin natin yan. Let's start with human participants. The first ethical principle we apply is the principle of informed consent. Everybody say informed consent. The principle of informed consent, very common to. Not only in psychological experiments but in research in general. Okay? So let's talk about ano bang ibig sabihin ng informed consent. In informed consent, the correct sequence is like this. It is the participants that give the experimenter their consent. And what does that mean? If the participants give consent to the experimenter, the participants are saying this: we give you our informed consent. We agree to participate in your experiment. Nagigets nyo? It's the participants that give informed consent to the experimenter, not the other way around. Many psych majors are confused, ha? Akala nila yung experimenter yung nagbibigay ng informed consent sa participants. No. It's the participants who give their informed consent to the experimenter. Here's the correct sequence. The experimenter first gives information. Then, after this information is received by the participants give their consent. Dapat ganon. Both should be present in that sequence. Hindi pwedeng may information lang, walang consent. Anong itsura nun? May binigay na information yung experimenter sa mga participants but they were not asked if they are willing to participate in the study anyway. So, ang ginawa ng experimenter, binasa lang niya yung information about the experiment and then, boom, started the experiment. Hindi pinarating sa mga participants that they are free to say no, given what they know about the experiment. Mali yun. Kasi, dinaanan mo lang yung inform part. Dapat may consent. After you inform, they give you their consent. Hindi naman pwedeng consent lang, walang information. Siguro close yung experimenter tsaka yung participant. Sabi ng participant sa experimenter, bro, okay na, I trust you. Kahit wala nang mga information, basta matuloy lang yung research mo, magiging participant mo ako. Hindi rin pwede. Kasi iniskip mo yung information. Again, before they give their consent, the participants must be fully informed about the experiment. So the next question now is, what particular information should you give to the participants before they give you their consent to join the experiment the following? Hindi ko na iisa-isahin yan. You can just research this on your own, no? Pero ito yung mga basic information about the experiment that your participants must know before starting the experiment. Hindi ka pa nagpapaandar ng mga IV levels dyan, ha? At the beginning to. Numbers 1 to 7, dapat sinabi mo yan. Dapat binasa mo yan. Dapat alam ng mga participants yan. What the experiment is about. Siyempre, may exception dyan kung gagamit ka ng deception, which we discussed in previous lectures. They should know the step-by-step procedure, as in detail, ano yung mga i-undergo nila. Unless, of course, kung makakasira ba yan sa nature na experiment, we discussed that in other lectures. Number 3, very important, right to withdraw. Marami nakakalimot nito, ha. Experimenters must always inform the participants that anytime during the experiment, if they feel bad, if they no longer feel like going on in the experiment, they can withdraw anytime. So kayong mga experimenters in the future, wag nyo sasabihin na, ay hindi ka na pwede mag-back out eh. Kasi pinirmahan mo na yung informed consent, wala nang atrasan, to ituloy mo na lang, bawal yon. Anytime. Parang ayoko na pong ituloy, dapat they could freely go. They could freely withdraw from your experiment. Meron bang mga possible risk dyan? Confidentiality, dapat a-assure mo na walang lalabas sa mga results niya. Meron ba siyang incentives? Mamaya, meron tayong issue sa incentives, no? And of course, the contact number of the experimenter. Just in case they have future questions even after they're done with the experiment. And according to the ethical guidelines, if you miss any one of this information, you started the experiment not mentioning at least one from this. Meron ka lang nalimutang isa dyan, boom, you become unethical. Your study is considered an unethical study. John Watson is waving. John Money is waving. Nagigets nyo? So, it's very important that your informed consent form contain all this. Actually, marami namang template niyan. You can just go online. Alam na ng online kung ano yung mga dapat laman ng isang informed consent. One more thing about informed consent is it must be in written form. That means when the participants have read all the contents of this document, at the end of the document, there's a space there where they're going to sign. And that signature signifies what? Patunay yan na naintindihan nila yung mga nakasulat dito, at dahil naintindihan nila, they would still like to go on doing your experiment as a participant. Ito yung hard evidence mo na talagang nagbigay sila ng consent. Please don't forget this. Hindi pwedeng basahan mo lang ng informed consent, may script ka lang dyan, and then laway lang. Ano, after everything I've read to you, do you agree? And then they will say, yes, agree, mali. Dapat, paper form, make it formal, document it, get the signature of your participant. I heard one horror story on this. Mabilis lang na kwento. There was this experiment. Yun yung ginawa. Binasa lang yung informed consent form ng experimenter without making the participants sign the informed consent. Laway lang, yes, I agree to go on with the experiment. Until, ano na nangyari? Fast forward, I will no longer get into details, no? That experiment involved something about recalling a traumatic experience. Now, one of the participants, after the experiment, dahil nag-recall siya ng traumatic experience niya, na-trigger na naman yung addictive behaviors niya. He used to be an addict because of that traumatic event. Naging okay na siya. Eh, anong nangyari? Nirecall na naman yung traumatic event, boom! Nakalkal na naman yung sugat niya, di ba? His psychological wound is bleeding again. Ano nangyari? Nagkaroon ng behavioral effects. Hindi na naman siya makatulog, nag-a-addict na naman siya, hindi na naman siya pumapasok sa eskwela, so on and so forth. Now, the question there is, may kasalanan ba yung experimenter? What do you think? Well, we go back to the principle of informed consent. Before the experiment started, did that participant knew what he is going through? And the answer is, yes, kasi binasahan nga siya nung informed consent. But, where's the problem? It wasn't documented. There was no signature to prove na talagang naintindihan niya to, naintindihan niya yung possible risk, and yet, pinirmahan niya pa rin. Doon natalo yung group na gumawa ng experiment. Diba? Now, the parents learned about what happened. Eh, syempre, sino sisisihin ng parents? Dahil sa nangyayari sa anak nila, yung mga experimenters. Now, buti na lang hindi na umakyat legally. But if that went through legally, matatalo yung mga experimenters dyan. Kasi if the court asks, is there evidence, prove to us that in spite this risk in the experiment, the participant agreed to go on through the experiment, wala silang mapapakitang ebidensya because they did not document the informed consent. Anyway, to make the long story short, naayos naman, pero yun nga yung sinasabi ko, please, 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 document your informed consent, get their signatures. Pero, going back to my example, hindi porket pumirma yung participant na kahit may possible risk, tuloy pa rin siya, ibig sabihin, okay ka na, off the hook ka na. Hindi, kasi going back to my example, dapat may ginawa ka pang isa. When you let your participants recall a traumatic event, or let them do things that may possibly psychologically harm them, may isa pa tayong principle na dapat gagawin. Later on, i-discuss ko kung ano yun, no? Pero in terms of informed consent, it must be well documented. Number 2, we also have what we call the principle of debriefing, which happens at the end of any psychological study, especially experiments. So, hindi pwedeng, nung nakuha mo na yung dependent variable nila, nagkipag-fist bump ka na lang, nakipag-appear ka na lang, bye-bye, thank you for your time. Hindi pwede. There must be a short conversation between the experimenter and the participant at the end of the experiment. Anong pag-uusapan nila? The following. Do they have questions about the experiment? How was their experience in the experiment? In case na gumamit ka ng deception, which we already discussed in the past, dito mo na ngayon i-reveal. Why did you apply deception? Properly explain why you need to apply deception. Sinabi ko na yan noon, hindi mo lang sasabihin na diniceive mo sila. Dapat, papaliwanag mo why did you need to do that. And of course, number 3, if you have any tokens of appreciation, this is where you give the token of appreciation, which by the way, please lang, you have taken a part of their life na hindi mo na maibabalik. Right? They have chosen to spend time with you in your experiment. Sana man lang, meron kang kahit simpleng token. Apply this principle when you make your own experiments in the future. Please, at least man lang, meron kayong small token of appreciation. It does not need to be expensive. Simple lang, pwede na. Basta ang point lang, dapat meron. Okay? Like for example, yan. Yung mga, alam mo yung mga ganyang mga incentive, pwede naman na yan. Okay, now, I have a question in connection to incentives. So there are times to get participants to participate in experiments, we offer certain incentives. And that's fine. Okay lang naman yun. Ginagawa talaga yan even in other universities abroad. Even by research teams abroad. Nag-o-offer ng incentives. Pero ito yung ethical issue dyan, no? Can grades be used as incentives? Nag-announce si teacher, meron akong experiment. Gusto ko na kasing ma-publish para ma-promote na ako. Para sa mga sasama sa experiment, meron kayong +5 sa akin. Sa final grade ninyo. Siyempre, +5, malaki yon. Most likely, you would like to go to the experiment. Now, in that scenario, okay lang ba yung ginawa ni teacher? Lahat ng sasama sa experiment, may +5. Diba? At first glance, you would tell me, parang okay naman, wala namang mali ginawa si teacher doon, pero you dig deeper, may mali. Okay? Ano yung mali? Meron pa siyang dapat ginawa na hindi niya ginawa. The teacher should have offered alternative, everybody say alternative. Alternative to those students who will not want to go to the experiment. So for example, pwede kong sabihin, meron akong experiment. For those of you who would go, +5 final grade. But for those of you who are not comfortable in being experimented on, no problem. Because you can just do this journal article, read this, and then reflection paper, pasa kayo, +5 din yan. Ganun dapat. Kasi ang mangyayari, if you don't have alternative, people will be pressured to just go to your experiment for the sake of the +5 kahit ayaw nila. Hindi sila sincere na gusto nilang mag-experiment kasi nga, nandun lang sila for the +5. Kung may choice lang talaga sila, walang +5 na involved, ayaw nila eh. Hindi, wala silang choice. It's +5 or none. Nagigets nyo? So yun dapat niyang ginawa. May +5 for those who will join the experiment. May +5 naman for those of you who don't like to join. You just do this task, +5 din yan. Am I making sense? Pero hindi naman yata mag-a-apply sa inyo yan because you are not teachers. You are not giving grades. Right? You are working for the grades. No? Well, it's just good to know na meron palang ganong angulo yung paggamit ng grades as incentives. Alright? Number 3, we also follow the principle of reversibility where the experimenter is expected to undo, everybody say undo, undo any harmful effects that he or she gives the participants. As you know, in psychological experiments, minsan naman talaga, hindi maiiwasan that we give something unpleasant to our participants. Okay? They will experience something unpleasant. Siguro, makakarinig sila ng malakas na sound, gugulatin mo sila, i-stressin mo sila, tatakutin mo sila, and the list goes on. Okay lang naman yon in psychological experiments. Although may guidelines pa rin dyan. Hindi pwedeng kahit ano na lang unpleasant stimuli pwede. Okay? Meron pa rin guidelines dyan, read the documents. But anyway, going back. In case you're going to apply unpleasant stimuli to your participants, what should you do after? Anong dapat mong gagawin after? Dapat i-reverse mo. Meaning, you will undo any of the harmful effects that you have caused the participants. I-undo mo yung stress na binigay mo sa kanila. I-undo mo yung anxiety na binigay mo sa kanila. I-undo mo yung fear na binigay mo sa kanila. Hindi pwedeng pumasok sila sa experiment mo na okay sila and then meron kang in-induce doon na negative emotion, lumabas silang traumatized. Hindi pwede. We should be undoing, again, that's the keyword, undoing any harmful effects caused by our experiment. 2 experiments na bad examples, violation, huwag nyong gagayahin, huwag nyong tutularan. Number 1, the experiment by Carney Landis noong 1924 on facial expression. Interesting. Yung question niya noon was, do emotions cause changes in facial expressions? So this is emotional psychology, no? So ang ginawa nila Carney Landis, una, drinowingan nila yung mga muka ng participants nila so that they could specifically measure the movement of the facial muscles when the participants are experiencing certain emotions. Kaya nila drawingan yan para ma-measure nila specifically kung gaano kalawak yung mga movements of those facial muscles. Okay, let's talk about the procedures. Grabe. One of the worst. So, sinabi ko na to, nag-draw line sila sa mga mukha ng participants nila. Yung dependent variable nila dito is the movement of certain points in the faces of the participants. Now, here's the thing. How do they induce certain emotions that they are after? Yan yung IV levels nila. Okay? Interesado sila sa emotion of disgust. So, anong ginawa nila sa disgust group? Pinaamoy sila ng ammonia. If you're not familiar with ammonia, sobrang baho niyan. Imaginein mo, basang medyas na sinuot mo maghapon. Imaginein mo, basang medyas mo, suot mo maghapon. Tapos at the end of the day, hubarin mo yung medyas, amoyin mo, mabaho yon, times 5 mo. Ammonia yon. Kaya wag kang matuwa kapag may nagsabi sa'yo, uy, alam mo, amoy ammonia ka. Sobrang baho mo. But why did they do that? To generate the emotion of disgust. Some participants were asked to watch porn to generate sexual arousal. Some participants were asked to put their hands in the bucket of frogs. Imagine mo, may palaka dyan, nandoon sa aquarium, tapos ibaba mo yung kamay mo para matakot ka. At titignan nila yung mukha mo, paano nagmo-move because of that stimulation. Alright? And as they were doing that, they were photographing the faces of their participants again to see the changes in the movements of the facial muscles. Pero ang pinaka-controversial sa lahat na stimuli, kasi hindi pa tapos yan may IV level sila where they would like to see the facial muscle movements of the combination of fear and disgust. That's the last level. Question: how did they induce this emotion? Sorry for the animal lovers here, pero I have to say this. Anyway, hindi ko naman experiment ito. Sisihin nyo sila Carney Landis. The participants were asked to behead a rat. As in, bibigyan sila ng daga. Bibigyan sila ng kutsilyo. Utusan sila, putulin mo ulo ng daga. At syempre, you would understand, many participants didn't want to do it, right? Anong gagawin ng experimenter? Siya mismo ang magpuputol ng ulo ng daga. Oh my goodness. Believe it or not, this happened. Alright? So unethical. Yan ang sinasabi kong huwag niyong gagayahin. Please lang, huwag niyong i-replicate. Because at the end of the study, according to the reports, many participants were traumatized by that experiment. Clear violation of reversibility. Wala silang ginawa after. So marami mga participants, after the experiment, dinala nila yan habang buhay. Ayaw na nila makakita ng mga white rats o mga animals in general because of that experiment. Not to mention, may isa pang violation dito. The violation of harming the animals. We talk about that later. Believe it or not, studies like that existed. Bakit nga? Explain ko na kanina. Kasi wala pa mga ethical guidelines noon, hindi pa ganun kahigpit. But you do this today, your career is over as a research psychologist. Kaya please lang, huwag niyong i-replicate yan. And of course, another example would be Philip Zimbardo. He violated that principle, reversibility. Imagine what happened, given what happened in his experiment. I-review na lang kung ano nangyari, but it wasn't good. Remember, the experiment was cut short. Right? Supposedly, dapat yung experiment ang target ni Zimbardo, specific number of days. It was cut short because nagkaroon na ng riot inside the laboratory. Anyway, fast forward, many of his participants felt guilt. Sino yung mga nag-guilty na yan? Yung mga guards. Felt shame, especially the prisoners, dahil sa mga pinaggagawa sa kanila ng mga guards. And many of them had personality changes. Remember, the control variable of Zimbardo in this experiment was being nice. Trivia yun He only got extremely nice people for his experiment. Because remember, ano yung research question niya? How good people become evil. Dating mabait, bakit naging demonyo? Paano nangyayari yon? Right? Excuse my language. I'm exaggerating, but that's what he was asking. So he only got people who were nice. How did he know if you were a nice person or not? Meron siyang psychological test na in-administer to screen people who are very nice. To make the long story short, going back here, after the experiment, they were no longer nice. Diba? Hindi na sila ganon. They were no longer the people they used to be before joining his experiment. Clear violation of reversibility. Kaya nga, ang application ng principle of reversibility is, again, if your experiment will involve certain harm, certain negative manipulations, i-stressin mo, tatakutin mo, mag-i-induce ka ng disgust, pain, guilt, at iba pang mga negative psychological experiences, dapat, anong gagawin mo? At the end of the experiment, you have to undo. You have to reverse it. Pababain mo ulit yung stress. Pababain mo ulit yung fear. Dapat may isa kang mental health professional somewhere in your experiment where he or she will help in processing these negative emotions they felt during the experiment. Sir, wala akong budget mag-hire ng mental health professional. Di sana wag yan yung experiment mo. Diba? O, pero kung ganyan talaga yung experiment mo at may budget ka naman, dapat meron ka. Taga-process ng mga masamang nangyari sa kanila in your experiment. Para paglabas nila ng experiment mo, okay pa rin sila mentally. Or, para hindi mo na ma-face yung ganyang issue, avoid experiments with permanent effects na lang. Kung alam mo na yung introduction mo ng independent variable will cause permanent effects, long-term, hindi na mawawala, wag mo nang gawin. Hanap mo na lang ng ibang topic, especially in your state as students. Hindi ko rin naman i-approve yan as your teacher if I saw that your IV will be doing this. Alright? Hindi naman bawal na magpa-stress, no? I mean, pag sobra lang, I'll be the one to judge if what you're doing in your experiment is too much and unethical. Okay? Pero may exception itong principle of reversibility, which is what? If your experiment gave them something positive, halimbawa, yung IV mo, happiness, they underwent a happiness program, wag mo nang bawiin. Baka naman may pilosopo dito, oy, ikaw, halika dito. Bago ka umalis ng experiment, palulungkutin muna kita. Pumunta ka ditong malungkot, dapat aalis kang malungkot. Hindi ganon. Positive na yung binigay mo eh. Nakatulong ka na sa taong malungkot eh. Natuwa na nga siya doon sa level 1 eh. Let go of that. Be happy for the person because of your experiment, he was happy. Wag mo nang i-reverse yun, please lang. Ang sama mo naman kung i-reverse mo pa. Am I making sense? Okay? So those are the 3 general guidelines that we follow in connection to experiments involving human participants. Marami pa ha, hindi ko na lang nabanggit lahat because masyadong mahaba, but at least those are the 3 foundational principles for human participants. Now, many of you will be asking, Sir, sino bang nag-check kung yung 3 ba na yan nasusunod in a psychological experiment? Ang sagot dyan, let me introduce to you IRB. Everybody say IRB stands for Institutional Review Board. IRBs are designated offices to screen ethical compliance of a research study, especially experiment. At usually, itong IRB na to, nag-e-exist yan saan? Sa mga universities. Because most experiments, especially in psychology, ginagawa yan talaga sa university. Like yung Stanford University ni Philip Zimbardo. Another example would be yung obedience study ni Stanley Milgram sa Yale University yon. Now, during those times, sa Yale University, sa Stanford University, wala pa masyadong IRB. Wala pa. Kaya nakalusot yung mga studies na yun eh. But today, it's different. Because we are so aware of these things, lahat ng universities ngayon sa Pilipinas, meron ng mga IRBs. Ito yung opisina na talagang ang trabaho nila, all faculty members who will be doing a certain research must first submit their research protocols to these IRBs to be reviewed kung meron bang mga possible ethical violations. This, the experiments by Zimbardo and Milgram would not be approved for sure in today's IRB standards. For sure. Hindi yan ma-approve. Now, in LaSalle, our university, anong pangalan ng IRB natin? It is named as REO, Research Ethics Office. I got this straight from our website. Meron talagang ganyang opisina sa university natin. Sila yung nagsisilbi nating IRB. Ensuring na lahat ng researches na ginagawa ng mga faculty members natin in our university, ethical. Chine-check nila kung may mga possible ethical violations. Chine-check nila kung wala bang mahaharm ng mga participants. REO ang gumagawa dyan. The Research Ethics Office. I-resize ko lang. Yan. Again, galing ito sa website natin. Alright? So, sana na ano nyo yan, ha? Ngayon nyo na siguro narinig yan. But we have a mechanism to make sure that experiments done within our university are ethical para hindi na makaulit sila Zimbardo tsaka sila Watson in spirit. Alright? Anyway, pero ito pala, one more thing about REO, no? Ano na to eh? This REO, they check the study of faculty members. Pero ang tanong, how about students? How about students? Ang REO ba inaasikaso rin yung ethical standards of student studies? Let's say you're doing an experiment. Ang sagot dyan, indirectly. Kasi kapag ang estudyante yung gagawa ng mga studies, under sila ng faculty member, in your case, that's me. Okay? Pero yung standard na i-apply ko in checking whether your experiments are ethical or not, is also based on REO. Pero hindi sila directly magbabasa ng protocol ninyo, ako magbabasa ng protocol ninyo to check if there will be certain ethical violations. Maliwanag. Now, let's move on. From human participants, now let's go to animals. Ano ba yung mga guidelines natin when we deal with animals as participants in our experiments? Now, again, as a psych major, may mga studies talaga na gumagamit ng mga animals in psychological experiments. In the history of psychology, B.F. Skinner wanted to do that. Mahilig siya dyan. And he was known for his pigeons, di ba? Yan yung pinagmulan ng operant conditioning theory niya. He was studying pigeons. A more modern study was the study done by Martin Seligman on learned helplessness. One of the causes of depression yan. Bago natin nalaman na totoo yan sa tao, pinag-aralan ni Martin Seligman yung mga aso. You know, and one of the, for the dog lovers here, magagalit kay Martin Seligman kung paano niya ginawa yung experiment, i-research na lang. But it involved electrocuting some dogs. Kawawa naman yung mga dogs. I-research nyo paano ginawa ni Martin Seligman yon. Okay? But these are clear violations of ethical principles we follow under animal participants. Now, since you will not deal with animals in your final experiments, and I won't allow it, kasi marami pang mga permit na kailangan dyan, I will no longer dig deeper into this, but you can just research this on your own. In general, these are some of the guidelines that we follow when your participants in your experiments are animals. Dapat susundin nyo yan from numbers 1 to 8. Okay? So, pinakaano dyan yung respect for animal life, tsaka yung humane housing and care. In case na gumagamit ka ng mga daga, dapat sa laboratory mo, meron ka talagang bahay pang daga. Dapat yung mga pinapakain mo dyan, yung talagang kinakain nila sa natural habitat nila. Hindi pwedeng bigyan mo lang ng piatos. Bigyan mo lang ng chippy. Kawawa naman. Sira ang mga kidneys niyan, no? Inistorbo mo na nga yung buhay nila, sinira mo pa yung kidneys nila, no? Anyway, so these are the guidelines na dapat alam mong i-apply, no? Now, before we leave animal participants, you have to know the answer to this question. Maybe you will be asked as a psych major by someone who is not in psychology. Sabihin nila, di ba psychology is for humans? If it is so, then why are you doing experiments on animals? Ito yung mga isasagot nyo, no? Number one kasi, bakit ba tayo nag-aaral ng mga animals? Mas madali kasi silang i-access. Mas hindi sila busy. Tama ba? Meron ba kayong alam na animal na busy? May klase siya from 8 to 12. Nagtatrabaho siya from 1 to 5. Wala naman, di ba? So, if we want participants with time, wala masyadong ginagawa, mga animals yan. So it's understandable that some psychologists, ayaw na nilang mangstorbo ng mga tao, animals na lang. Number two, another reason why we use animals in experiments is there is a big overlap between animal psyche and human psyche. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not an evolutionist. Hindi ako naniniwala sa evolution, no? Pero ang sinasabi ko dito, may overlaps. Hindi ko sinasabing dati tayong hayop, no? May overlaps. Malaki ang pagkakapareho in Tagalog. There's a big similarity between how the mind of animals work versus how our mind works as human beings. Not exactly the same, but there are similarities. Some examples would be sexual behaviors. Ang daming overlaps niyan. Kaya marami mga studies on the psychology of sex, especially experiments, animal muna yan eh. Kasi mostly unethical pag ginawa mo sa tao. So, they do animal research. Number two would be learning or problem solving. Yan, in cognitive psychology, 'di ba? Maraming mga experiments diyan, animal participants like rats. Dinadala sila sa mga mazes, mine-measure yung mga cognitive performance nila. Tapos may i-induce sa kanilang drug or may tatanggaling part ng brain nila and then ibabalik sila sa maze and find out if their performance will change. Nagigets nyo? Very common yan in cognitive psychology. And it turned out that many of the conclusions about learning among rats is also true among human beings. Kaya in a way, kung paano mo turuan yung daga to learn a certain skill, it would also work if you apply the same principles to human beings. Because again, there are psychological overlaps. And the last reason why we still use animals in psychological experiments is because we have learned in the past na talagang useful kasi. Marami tayong mga knowledge about psychology of human beings. Una nating nalaman when we were studying animals. One good example of that would be the brain. Kaya sa biopsychology, cognitive neuroscience, maraming experiments on animals eh. Later on to be applied among humans. So like, again, going back, isa sa mga issues in the history of psychology, yung parts ba ng brain natin specialized or general? Whenever we do something, lahat ba ng part ng brain natin nagwo-work in the same degree or are there certain parts of the brain specializing in a certain skill? Isa yan sa mga foundational questions in cognitive psychology / cognitive neuroscience. And how did they answer this question? By studying animals. Passing tabi sa mga animal lovers dyan, pero ganyan naman talaga yung mga studies nila noon. To answer that question, talagang binubuksan yung skull ng mga animals, expose the brain, destroy certain parts of the brain, and see if there will be changes in their performance. And based on these studies, anong na-confirm nila? That the brains of animals are specialized. There are certain parts of their brains na kapag dinestroy mo, will affect specific skills that they do. And later on, that idea was confirmed among human beings nung naimbento na yung mga more technical or more advanced technology, such as the MRI. Okay? Because of MRI, we were able to confirm the idea that the brain is highly specialized depending on the brain part. O, di ba? Nalaman muna natin yon. Bakit? Because of these animals. Only later on to be confirmed that it is also true for human brains. Some examples of this would be, sa biopsych naman, iti-take nyo to, no? The amygdala is for emotions. The frontal lobe is for personality. Religious / spiritual experiences is within the temporal lobe. Minsan may parietal lobe din, so on and so forth. Again, how did we know all this? Animal studies. Kaya, mahal natin yung mga animals na yan. Maliwanag. But then again, let me just repeat, in case you will be using animals in your experiments, boom, dapat, wag niyong kakalimutan, i-apply yung numbers 1 to 8. And last one, let's go to writing. Ito na. May mga ethical guidelines na sinusunod kapag magsusulat ka na ng experimental report nyo. No? Two common violations that people commit are plagiarism and forging. Anong ibig sabihin ng plagiarism? The act of presenting another's work or ideas as your own. Ninanakaw mo yung idea ng isang tao. Hindi mo naman idea, pero i-claim mo that it's your idea. De La Salle University is a very anti-plagiarism university. This is a major offense. And plagiarism takes many forms. Number one, not citing an author is plagiarism. meron kang chunk of knowledge na nabasa sa journal article, mukhang maganda, magmumukhang matalino ko dito pag sinabi ko to, kinopy-paste mo, and then you are claiming na naisip mo yon, even if sa totoo lang, it did not come from you. That's plagiarism. Number 2 is copy-pasting information without citing. As in direct copy, yung, uy, okay itong paragraph na to, highlight, right-click, copy, right-click, paste, tapos wala kang citation. Pag wala kang citation in research writing, the assumption is that's yours. Kaya ka nga hindi nagsasite Sinasabi mo na ikaw nakaisip nun. Now, for those of you who plan to do that, remember, we have a lot of artificial intelligences today, AI, that can check if nag-plagiarize ka ba o hindi. If nag-copy-paste ka ba or hindi. Ang Lasal nakasubscribe yan sa Turnitin, Kaya in the future, just to give you an idea, although malayo pa naman yata kayo dito, when you write your thesis, before you are allowed to talk with your reader sa thesis, the thesis coordinator will check if there are any parts in your thesis na talagang kinopy-paste mo lang from somewhere. And we use Turnitin for that. And in the past, we have encountered some groups, hindi ko na babanggitin kung sino, some groups who have violated that principle. And that's a major offense. Pwede nyong ikabagsak yan. So please, okay lang naman mag-copy-paste basta mag-cite kayo. Diba? Wala namang problema. I-copy-paste mo. Talaga namang useful yung sinabi nila. Copy-paste mo pero i-cite mo na hindi sa'yo yun. In your research classes, you will be taught how to do that. No? Number 3, use of others' data is also considered plagiarism as one's own. Halimbawa, nag-research ka ng experiment. Aba, may nakita kang grupo. Yung dependent variable ng grupo, parehong-pareho sa'yo. And in that thesis, in the appendix part, nandun lahat nung raw data nila of their dependent variable. Andun na lahat Tapos eksakto pa. Kung ilan yung participants sa gusto mong gawin, yun yung ginawa nila. Halimbawa, pinopropose mo, 100 participants. Nagkataon. Yung nasa appendix part nila, 100 entries of data. Tinatamad ka. Huwag na tayo mag-data gathering. Ito na lang yung data set. Yun yung tawag doon na data set. Yun na lang yung data set na gamitin natin for our experiment. Ito na lang yung i-analyze natin kunwari nag-data gathering tayo kahit hindi. That's plagiarism. Don't do that. Please. Major offense yan. And of course, number 4, stealing authorship. Ito, in fairness, ang madalas gumagawa nito, mga teachers. Baka sabihin nyo, lagi ko na lang pinapagalitan students Ang teachers din, minsan may offense dito. Ano nangyayari dito? For instance, madalas to thesis. May isang thesis, let's say experiment. Ang ganda. Nanalo ng award. Fast forward, yung mga estudyante na nagsulat ng thesis, graduate na. Ganyan kayo, di ba? Pag graduate, wala nang pakialamanan, ganyan, trabaho na, enjoy na, right? Si teacher, yung mentor nyo, kailangan niya ma-promote. As you know, in Lasal, publish or perish. Desperado na siya. This year, kailangan niyang ma-promote or else. Nakita niya yung study ng grupo niya. Inayos lang niya ng konti. Palit ng mga konting writing style. Yun yung sinabit niya for publication. Eventually, it got published. Na-promote siya. Pero ano nangyari? Fast forward, one of the group members, one day nagbabrowse ng internet, may lumabas na published journal article that looks so familiar. Parang alam ko tong study na to Parang ako yata nag-collect ng data na to Ito yung part na sinulat ko sa review of literature Iniba lang ng konti, chinek niya, boom, nalaman niya yung ginawa ng teacher niya. The teacher, without asking for permission from the group, published their paper without their knowledge. That's considered plagiarism. The teacher has stolen authorship from the students. At marami ng beses nangyayari yan Recently lang may nangyaring ganyan sa isang university na hindi ko na lang babanggitin yung pangalan pero nakalagay sa screen. Hindi na ako magbabanggit ng mga pangalan dito. Anyway, public statement naman to from this university. So if you want to know what happened here, i-research na lang. Okay, hindi ako naninira ng tao dito, Kaya ako to tinuturo, it's for teaching purposes na huwag niyong gagawin yan. And it's happening. Especially among teachers. Kaya kayong mga teachers, fellow teachers ko, kung nakikinig kayo, may nakikinig ba kayo, Sir Ho? May nanonood ba ng lectures ko na teachers? Wala naman yata. Pero kung sakaling meron, please lang. Huwag nating agawin yung work ng mga estudyante natin. Do you agree? Pinaghirapan nila yan. Kung talagang gusto nyo ng paper for your promotion, ang gawin nyo, kontakin nyo yung mga grupo nyo na may magandang paper, sabihin nyo, ayusin ninyo, i-publish nyo, co-author kayo. Pwede naman yun eh. Kung ipapaliwanag mo naman ng mabuti doon sa mga students mo, papayag naman yan. After all, mahal tayo ng mga estudyante natin, tama ba? Do you love your teachers? Sagot. Taas kamay, yung love yung teachers. Walang nagtaas. Sabi ko na nga ba eh. Walang nagmamahal sa amin. But kidding aside, that's what should teachers do. Ask permission. Tapos co-author ka na lang. Sila yung primary author, may points din naman yan, di ba? Anyway, last one, forging the data. Bawal din yan. Nako, lalo na kayo. Ito hindi pa masyadong applicable sa inyo to eh. Di ba? Pero kayo, because you are my students in experimental psych, forging the data is a major offense. Fabricating the data, sa Tagalog, niluluto mo yung data. Anong ibig sabihin ng niluluto mo yung data? May definition ako dyan, i-zoom in ko. Any form of modification to the collected data. Meron kang kinolect na data, tapos may mga binabago-bago ka doon. That's considered forging. You are changing numbers, as you can see here. Nag-add ka ng entry na hindi mo naman talaga ginawa. Kunwari lang, may bagong participant. Invento ka lang ng mga numbers, na mga responses niya. Subtract entries or even fake entries, basta ang bottom line, lahat ng modifications may nilagay ka, may pinilitan ka dyan na wala dati dyan. That's considered fabricating the data. Ang general rule dito, when you collect your data, leave the data as is. Wala kang gagalawin dyan. Yan na yun. Maliwanag. Now you may ask, why do people forge data? Especially scientists, psychologists who are doing experiments. What are their reasons? Number one is to gain recognition. Kasi minsan, lalo na sa scientific field, if you want to be noticed by the scientific community, you can create a controversial research result or experimental result. Like for instance, di ba? Kung gusto mong magpasikat, gawa ka ng quote-and-quote experiment, ifa-fabricate mo yung data para palabasin to. Christians have poorer mental health compared to the general population. Matutuwa sa iyo yung mga anti-Christians. Ikaw yung papansinin. Marami mga editors ng journal articles anti-Christians eh. So most likely ipapublish ka nila because your data fits their template. That Christianity is not good. O, 'di ba? Napansin ka. Pero anong ginawa mo para palabasin na totoo 'yan? Nag-fabricate ka ng data to make it appear that being a Christian makes you poorer in mental health. Another reason why, professionals do this is because they want to support a scientific theory. Siyempre, in the field of science, maraming theories, and among scientists, meron silang mga sinusuportahang mga theories, and they want to prove that the theory that they're believing is the right one. Like, one good example is the theory of evolution. Ito talaga nangyari to, Nangyari talaga tong unethical case na to, no? There was this author, naniniwala siya that evolution is true. Talagang big fan siya ni Charles Darwin. Okay? Ang tawag doon sa case na to is the case of the Piltdown Man. Bakit siya tinawag na Piltdown Man? Piltdown is a place somewhere in Europe. Check nyo na lang, if I'm not mistaken, England yata to. It's a cave in Piltdown. Meron silang na-discover na bungo. Anong kinalaman ng bungo sa evolution? Ito na, i-explain ko na, no? So, during that time, may isang researcher, anthropologist ito, went to Piltdown and then recovered a skull. Ito yon. Ito yung actual skull talaga, picture yan. O, tama, England pala. 1912 nangyari. Naka-discover daw siya ng skull and something is unusual about the skull. Nireport niya sa scientific community. He reported that this skull, the upper portion of the skull is that of a modern man, while the lower portion, the jaw part, is actually of an ape. So, yung taas ng skull, modern man, yung panga, ape. Now, if you understand evolution, what does that establish? That evolution is true. Kasi 'di ba ang claim ng evolution from animal, from monkey to modern human, nagkaroon yan ng gradual change. Right? So in evolution, itong bungo na nakita niya, it's a confirmation that there was a certain species in our evolutionary history wherein it's partly monkey and partly human. This is the skull of someone who is about to go to being a modern man. Gitna siya. Yun yung tinuturo ng evolution. Merong human species na partly monkey, partly modern man. Gitna, papunta ng modern man. It's a confirmation that evolution is true. Aba, syempre, nung nireport nito sa scientific community, the evolutionists rejoiced because their theory was confirmed. Totoo ang evolution. Lahat tayo galing sa simple explosion, billions of years, evolve tayo ng evolve, we have the data, it's true. There's no God. Let's not involve the supernatural here. Stop trusting the Bible. Evolution is the way. And in fairness, they have the data. That's why during that time, nung nireport yan, talagang naging mas powerful pa yung theory of evolution for about 40 years. Many people believe, because this was taught in schools, no, that ape evolved into modern man. And the evidence that this is true, again, going back, there was a point of evolutionary history that humans are partly monkey, partly modern humans. 40 years, ang daming naniwala dyan. They have the evidence. Until, ito na yung story. Na-invento na ngayon yung carbon dating. Now, I will no longer dig deeper into this, but carbon dating is a technique to measure how old the object is based on its carbon traces. Ano ang nangyari? Di kinarbon dating nila itong skull of the Piltdown Man. Ano ang na-discover nila? The upper skull, this one, is older than the jaw. Anong implication nun? Kung mabilis yung isip mo, anong implication nun? The skull was fabricated. Kasi kung totoong skull yan ng iisang tao, half monkey, half human, the entire skull must have the same age. Right? Makes sense. Imposibleng tumanda muna ito bago yung jaw. Yung jaw parte ng ulo yan eh. Dapat iisa lang yung age niyan sa carbon dating, but that's not what they saw. The upper skull was older than the jaw, which means what? Inattach lang niya yung bungo ng tao sa pangan ng unggoy. And made it appear that evolution is true. So the case of the Piltdown Man was a big hoax. It was a fake, one of the biggest hoaxes in the history of science. That's what happens if you fabricate data. Hindi ko na lang nilagay sa slide, pero isipin nyo na lang. Ano yung naging consequence niyan? Nung nag-fabricate ka ng ganyang data, niligaw mo ng landas ang maraming tao. Going back to that slide, for 40 years, ilan ang naniwala na ang tao galing sa unggoy? Ano kaya ang spiritual consequence niyan? Kung ikaw yung gumawa ng Piltdown Man, ikaw gumawa niyan, makonsensya ka naman, ano kaya nangyari sa mga taong naniwala dyan? Di ba? Dahil naniwala sila na tama si Darwin, naniwala sila na tama ang Big Bang, walang Diyos, ang Bible hindi totoo, dahil dyan sinunog nila Bible nila, hindi na nagsimba, hindi na nagpray. Ano nangyari? Yung mga taong namatay dito, nako, ano kaya yung spiritual consequence because of what you did? Am I making sense? Kaya nga again, forging data in science is a serious offense because you may be leading people out of the truth, which is the point of science. Ano bang point ng science? We want to know the truth. Amen? You cannot arrive at the truth if you falsify data. Yung principle dyan. Kaya ang sinusunod nga natin dito, kung ano yung data na nakuha mo, yun. Because most likely, kung wala kang gagalawin dyan, that's the truth. And that's what you want. When you fabricate data like this, nanliligaw ka ng landas ng maraming tao, baka makakontribute ka pa sa negative spiritual consequences nila. So please don't do that. Alright? And last one, number 3, why are people fabricating data? Ito may kinalaman sa inyo to create effect of IV on DV. Okay? Especially among students like you. Halimbawa, nag-experiment ka. Yung independent variable mo is fear, dependent variable mo is grade. And you are assuming, you are hypothesizing that fear will have a significant effect on your academic performance. Makes sense. Now, hypothetical lang to, no? So, nangolekta ka na ng data. You already run the experiment. May mga tao kang tinakot, may mga tao kang sobrang tinakot. Low fear and high fear. Alright? And then you like to know kung may effect ba yun sa average grade nila. Fast forward, sabi ng analysis ng t-test, P is greater than 0.05. There's no effect. Of course, as the experimenter, minsan, you'll feel bad. Because you want it to have an effect. Kaya mo nga pinag-aralan yan eh. Ang default mo kaagad, IV affects DV. And you want to confirm by running the experiment, lumabas nga sa analysis, walang effect. And then, as you were, browsing the data, minsan dito ka na makakarinig ng mga bulong mga bulong ng demonyo, no? Tingnan mo yung data mo, aba, ano napansin mo? Pag nag-change ka ng ibang numbers, remember the principle? Leave the numbers as is. Pero ito, may chine-change ka. Pag may chine-change kang mga entries, yung 5 ginagawa mong 3, yung 10 gawin mong 15, yung 15 gawin mong 6, aba! Kapag nag-change ka ng mga certain data at niriran mo yung t-test, boom! Biglang magiging significant yung result. Natuwa ka naman. Di ba? Tingnan mo, pagpalitan mo to, palitan mo yan mo, i-fabricate mo yan, iriran mo yung t-test, nagiging significant. Wala namang makakaalam na pinalitan natin yan eh. Tayo lang naman nandito, di ba? Palitan mo na. Para yung significant, major offense. Remember, para hindi kayo matempt, no, into doing that, remember, gentle reminder, your grade in experimental psych does not depend on whether or not your IV affects the DV. Hindi ito contest na dapat yung IV mo may effect sa DV. That's not the point of experimental psychology. The point of experimental psychology is to know psychological truths. Amen? Paulit-ulit ko sinabi yan. Kung ano yung totoo, yun yung dapat mong kunin using the method of experiment. And that is whether or not your result is significant, hindi siya nagmamatter. Non-significance is still truth. Agree? O sabihin mo mang bumalik ka doon sa unang data mo, anong nakita mo? Yung fear walang effect sa grade. Di yun yung truth. Doon kita gigradean. Yung grade mo hindi nakadepende kung may effect ba or wala. Ang grade mo nakadepende saan? Gaano kalinis. Everybody say linis. How clean are you able to apply your experiment? That's what I look for. Is your research question of causality? Did you have the right hypothesis? Is this based on a certain theory? Were you able to eliminate different confounding variables? Did you have the correct operational definition of your dependent variable? Yun yung tinitignan ko. The process, how you do experiments, not so much on the results. Kung yan yung totoo, kung wala naman talagang effect yung takot sa grade ng estudyante, di yan yung totoo, yan yung i-report mo, wag mo nang palitan yan. Leave it as is. Am I making sense? Okay? So para wag na kayo ma-pressure ha, it has nothing to do with whether or not your IB affects your DV, your grade. It has something to do with the methodology. Maayos ba? In-apply nyo ba yung mga pinag-aralan natin sa classroom in connection to how to run good experiments? Pero bigyan ko rin kayo ng professional side of this, no? Sa professional research din kasi, the reason why some researchers are being tempted to fabricate data Which, by the way, kahit ito pa yung reason nila, mali pa rin. Sinasabi ko lang. But this does not justify fabricating the data, okay? Kasi naman, may mga journal articles, they don't publish non-significant results. Hindi naman lahat, but mostly, the norm of journal articles is they would only listen to studies na may nakitang significant effects between IV and DV. So kung researcher ka, ang dami mo ng data na kinuha, ang laki na ng gastos mo, tapos tama naman yung gawa mo na experiment only to find out na hindi pala significant, manghihinayang ka, sayang naman yung effort ko. Ang dami kong ginawa, hindi pala significant. Paano natin mapapublish to? Walang papansin sa atin. Yun na, doon na ngayon manggagaling yung urge nila na palitan na lang kaya natin yung data. Wala naman makakaalam. Yun. Nagigets nyo? That's the professional side of it. Pero again, that does not justify. Di ba? Di maghanap ka ng journal article na pwede ang non-significant result, yun nga lang yung problema. Karamihan ng mga articles na yun, hindi siya ganun kalaki ang points. When it comes to, professional scores in universities, kailangan ang mag-publish sa'yo big-time journal article. Yung mga big-time journal article, ang pinapansin lang nila, significant results. Yun yung professional dilemma dyan, no? Anyway, punishment for forging are the following. Pag estudyante ka, pag ginawa nyo sa akin to, nahuli ko kayo, nagfa-fabricate kayo ng data, may nagsumbong sa akin, bagsak agad yan. No questions asked. That's deception. That's so unlasalyan. That is so unchristian. Maliwanag, failing mark ka agad yan, and possible expulsion from the program. Maghanap ka na ng ibang majors mo. Alright? For professionals naman, mas marami, mas nakakahiya. Number 1, minsan, i-require ka ng public apology, gagawa ka ng statement. Nakakahiya yan, ha? Lalo na kung talagang seasoned researcher ka, tapos ginawa mo yan, nahuli ka, tapos gagawa ka ng apology letter that you have fabricated the data. Oh my goodness. Mawawala yung credibility mo as a researcher. Wala nang kukuha sa'yo. Mawawala yung mga fundings mo for your research. Kukunin nila yung pera from you kasi hindi ka na mapagkakatiwalaan. Cancellation of license. Kung psychologist ka, 'di ba? Nasa ethical principle 'yan. Diyan pa nga lang nanloloko ka na eh. Ano pa yung ginagawa mo sa mga clients mo? Makes sense. And total ban from publishing. Wala nang journal article ang tatanggap ng kahit ano pang study na ginawa mo. Paano ka mapopromote niyan? Kung nakaban ka from publishing, baka nga tanggalin ka pa ng school mo pag nalaman yan. That's why, again, this is a serious offense. Don't fabricate your data. Claro? Questions? So that ends my short lecture, quote-unquote short. Pero naka-isang oras pala ako, no? So that's my, wait lang, asan yung slide ko na yun? Yan. That's my topic for today. If you have any questions about this, ilagay nyo lang dyan sa comment section or hit me an email for my students before your exam on Thursday comes. Okay? So kung wala na mga tanong, sana marami kayo natutunan. Sir Howard here. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.